So we've been talking about Seton Ridge today, and you hear buzzwords about responsible growth. What does that mean to you?
That's an interesting question. So responsible growth for me is, one, you're going to build something that people want to live in. I mean, that's the real test. If people live in it and they enjoy it and it adds value to their life, I think that's a great thing. I think with growth, people should be looking at sustainability. We look at it in all our buildings. What can you do? So nobody's paying attention. The environment is, there's been a lot of talk about, the impact of the environment and what can we do to make a change. So I think that's a big part of the footprint as well. And I think that you have to have, I think it's all about people if you want good growth. I think if you have people that are on the development side or on the building side or on the city side, and everybody wants to do things to make Halifax a better place, you end up with responsible growth. That's what it's all about. People are well-intended and they love where they live and they love what they do and they want to create something that's going to add value to the city, not just fill a hole.
So how do you build like a subdivision or a community that you're building while still respecting the surrounding neighbors? Like, how do you bring them in to get on, Team Southwest?
So we would have had early meetings. I know we talked about it in previous interviews. Bring them in, listen to them. You can't give them everything. You give them as much as you can. You give them things that are important. You try and listen and learn. They usually, and they did in our case, they have improved the concept that we started with. We ended up with a better concept because we listened to some of the neighbors and they informed us a little bit about the land, the pond that we talked about earlier, and can we, a little more concentration on can we keep the single families back on the single families, and we'd like connectivity because we are excited about it and we do want to be able to walk in and enjoy the amenities. Those things all help shape where we are now with our final plans and that and what we're building. So, I think there's a way of bringing people into the conversation, and if you are willing to listen, I think you can learn a lot from them and you can usually change your plans and make them better.
What does Southwest want Seton Ridge to feel like in 20 years from now?
20 years. So if I looked, when you walk down at Bishop's Landing, I think is probably the best example, which is another one of our projects on the waterfront. Excuse me. And I would say Jim was ahead of his time when he built it. And people were saying, wow, it was an area in the waterfront that was not really well developed, and it was a very bold concept. It won awards.
I didn't know that one did.
It did, yeah.
Okay.
Not even on a national level, on a world level, it won awards. And people look at it now and they look back and say, wow, this was really ahead of its time, and what a great amenity and what a great project. We get those comments all the time. And that's what I think is going to happen to Seton after it's built, and many years from now they're going to say they got it right, and this is a great project, and what great design, and what great forward thinking to sort of brings a project like this together. And I know that sounds a little arrogant, and I don't apologize for that, because I think sometimes Atlantic Canadians, our humility sometimes stifles the celebrations we should have about things that go really well. I think Bishop's went really well. We should celebrate it. I think in 20 years we're going to want to celebrate Seton.
Nice. So how does Southwest make decisions that future residents are going to appreciate years from now? Like, how does he go about that? Or, is that a team, or is that just Jim's vision?
I think it's, definitely Jim has an influence on it for sure. And then I think he's created a really good team of curious people that want to have their eyes open and be looking forward, and what can we do to make things better? And people that really just love building and feel proud when they finish something. It comes back, people are passionate about what they do. You usually end up with really good outcomes. So you have to have a team like that. And I think Southwest has a really strong team of people that would look at the project and say, how do we make this really great? Not just the building, and we talk about this, like after you put the buildings up, you have to bring the buildings to life. People have to manage the buildings. They have to have programming that brings people in, makes them involved in the community. And I think that we see the whole picture, not just putting them up, but afterwards when we start to move people in, how do we make it a great experience for them?
On the same topic, when people look at Seton Ridge in 20 years from now, what do you hope they say that Southwest got right?
I hope that people say that we've created a better living experience for them,
Okay.
and that people won't want to leave, and that people will say, geez, I really would like to get in there. There'll be like a waiting list of people saying, we've heard great things, and when the opportunity comes up, we want to move into Seton Ridge.
And what's the one thing is so dear to your heart, or what is the one thing that makes you so passionate about Seton Ridge? Because that's initially the reason why you were hired, wasn't it not?
I was brought on primarily for Seton Ridge, and I fell in love with Seton Ridge as soon as it was presented to me as well. I remember I was working for a builder at the time, and they asked if we'd buy any lots there, and I said, yeah, we'd buy them all, because I thought it was such a great project. So for me, I don't know, I've got a personal attachment to it. I've loved the project from the first day I saw it, and I think I like it more every time we talk about it, and as it gets further down the road. I think it's great buzz at our company. Everybody has a sense of pride in it. They're very excited about it. They create some energy in the company in that. And we've had, every time we show people the concept in that, it's encouraging to get good feedback on, people saying, wow, I really like that. It's different. And we've got some really good collateral now, which is helpful. People have a hard time sort of visualizing what things are going to look like, but as you get further into the design of the buildings, and we have some really good visuals that we can show people with some sort of flybys in the first building and some of the green space in that, it really gets you excited. So I'm a big one to enjoy the journey, so I've enjoyed the whole thing. There's not one thing that I'm going to look back on and say, wow, that's special. I think I'm just going to enjoy the whole process. Nice.
Well, I totally appreciate your time today, and you behaved during this segment.
You edited all the things where I did not behave, in fairness. So this is not an edit-free shot, but I think I've done a much better job. I feel like I'm maturing as I get older in the process.
Well, thank you so much, Caroline.